Hey everybody, welcome to the Marble Puzzle Quest January question and answer. We went to the forums and said, what do you guys want to know this month? And we got back a ton of questions that we can't wait to respond. We are at Demiurge Studios. I'm the product manager on Marble Puzzle Quest, and I brought our design team. We'll let them introduce themselves. This is...
Hey, I'm Will. I'm the lead designer on Marble Puzzle Quest. And that's Kabir.
Yeah, forgot your name.
I do it all the time.
I'm Casey Malone. I'm one of the designers on Marble Puzzle Quest.
And I'm Miles. I'm also a designer on Marble Puzzle Quest.
Awesome. So, yeah, I guess we'll just jump right into the questions. So, the first one we got was, what characters are currently being looked at for rebalance?
Cool, I can take that one. Currently, so let me tell you a little bit about the way we work. We work in 2-week chunks. We call them releases because at the end of every 2 weeks we bundle up a bunch of changes and they become a new update to the game that goes up on the app stores and on Steam. In this current 2-week block of work that's going to end on Friday, we didn't do any character rebalancing stuff because we were working on rebalancing the PvP progression rewards that we did.
Yep, lots of good stuff.
Yeah, we did how points, we changed how points generation worked in story events. And we've got some other upcoming changes. You're working on some changes to daily rewards.
Yep.
And I was working on planning out our next matchmaking change. So with all that, we didn't work on any characters. And
We
then
didn't work on rebalancing any characters.
that's true. Yeah, we did a lot of character work. Yeah. And at the end of that 2-week release cycle, we get together and we decide what we're going to do in our next 2 weeks. So we haven't decided what we're going to do next. That might include some characters. We might be putting some more effort into some other. We've got a lot of awesome stuff. Some of which is coming soon, and some of which is like a pretty long ways away. But we have to start working on it now. And so it's not clear when we're going to do the next character rebalancing stuff. But the list of characters that we want to adjust is, I think, as players and designers, is really close to the stuff we see on the forums. Like, I really want to make She-Hulk and Beast and Dr. Octopus and Invisible Woman better. Give Ragnarok a third ability. Like, that's at the top of the list. And, I've got my other pet peeves other places, but that's the top stuff I want to hit. Is that pretty close to what you're hoping to hit? Yeah.
Exactly.
I think it'd be interesting, Will, if you could talk a little bit about what it is we think about when we think about whether or not a character needs to be rebalanced. I think that might be interesting.
Yeah. Well, you work on that stuff too, so what's your take on that?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think there's the question of whether they're dominating the PvP metagame is usually the first thing. Like, overpowered characters are always going to be more of an immediate problem than underpowered characters, like say Ragnarok was a little while ago. So that's probably the first thing. Sentry. Oh yes, Sentry. And then after that, it becomes questions of who's being underused. Because we want all our characters. They can't all be equal in power, right?
Can't all be the best.
Yeah, exactly. Someone has to be the best. But we want to make sure that there's no, absolute worst.
Right.
That there's, team composition is this interesting problem. And if one character is never, ever going to be on your team, then that's, part of the problem is already solved for you. We don't want to do that.
Right.
But
that ends up not quite being as urgent as a character who's breaking the game.
Yeah.
Because it just makes the game a little smaller than it should be. Like, there's this opportunity that we're missing if the character isn't as good as it should be. So sometimes it takes us a little longer to get around to that.
yeah.
Cool. So this next question is going to be really popular. It's what steps have you been considering taking to address the roster slot / hero point shortage we currently have due to the increased release of new characters? I think I'll take a stab at this one. I don't know if I'm going to say anything that's going to be particularly popular, but we'll try to address it as directly as possible. We've looked at the situation for roster slots. We definitely think it's an issue, and we've talked about it. We've debated actually a lot internally, and a lot of that debate's been really, really heated. We've kicked around a bunch of different solutions. I think one of the ones that we may have talked about publicly is increasing the rewards for placement and progression rewards. It's one of those things that we looked at and said, if we did that, it makes the game for early stage players, I don't want to say too easy, but it just makes things feel like a walk in the park, and that sometimes is difficult because you just don't feel challenged, and that becomes a problem into itself. So I'll say that where we're at with it currently is that we're working on it. We have time slotted in this next release. Typically we don't plan a lot of stuff out, but that one we felt like we definitely know we need to address it. And I think all the solutions that we looked at that we felt like were the right one for the problem involved additional work, and it wasn't something that we could just do a quick patch and hack in. So I think the good parts are we care about it. We think it's actually the top issue in the game right now, and that came from everybody down. Like even our CEO thinks was one of the first people to bring it up as an issue. The bad news is that we're going to be doing some engineering work, which means it has to go through the engineering side. It has to go through QA. We have to make sure it's fun. Then it has to go through first-party certification. So it's a little ways off, but we hope it's the right answer for the game. And I can say nothing else, but that we know it's an issue. We're working on it, and we want to fix this as soon as you guys do as well. So let's see what the next question is.
That is a picture of your baby.
Very cute picture. It's a question later. Do you intend to continue vaulting characters indefinitely, or will you be updating the token system in the future?
Cool, yeah, I can go about that one. So we're talking about a character rotation here, so just in case anybody isn't like a daily forum user and doesn't know what we're talking about here, most of the packs that you get tokens for and like the main ways that you get new characters are we've got like a heroic pack that's always around, and we've got different packs that are associated with all these different events. And every 4 weeks, when a new season comes around, we change up what 23 stars are in those packs. We take like 4 or 5 out and put another 4 or 5 in. And the reason that we do that is because if those packs had 40 things in them, you'd have no chance of getting, you'd have a very low chance of getting the same 3-star more than once. And an important way that you progress in the game is you collect a 3-star and then you want to get more characters for that 3-star. So you go out, if you get lucky in that pack again and you get the same 3-star, awesome, now that character has 2 abilities, now that character can level up higher. So if we just stuck every 3-star in the game into the packs all the time, it's like an analogy is like you've got a bunch of glasses that you're like pouring apple juice into, and
This is the PG version.
This is the PG version of this analogy. I don't drink, so you can replace that with whatever your favorite beverage is. And you line them up, and if you just add more glasses, then it's going to take you, if you got a certain amount of apple juice, you're not going to be able to fill up all the glasses all the way. And what you really care about those characters once there's enough apple juice in them to like throw at your enemies. There's a couple of suggestions that people often have about that, which is like, why don't you just like split those glasses into 2 different groups and like let us pick which group they're in. And then, like, that's a little weird because then the right strategy is like just to pick one group of glasses and like only care about these characters, only get these characters, and then like we have people who either don't understand that strategy and are like doing worse than they could because they're trying to fill up all the classes at the same time, or we have just like people who only play with these group of characters and people who only play with these group of characters. So we intend to keep character rotation in those packs around indefinitely. Like we change things up all the time, so like I don't know when that will change, but we have no plans to change that. What we are hoping to do is that we think if there's a new form of liquid in the game, if there's a different way to get your 3-stars other than those packs, basically, other than the event rewards. We think that if we added something like that, and a lot of our plans involve adding something like that, that we wouldn't have to obey the same rules of character rotation. So if there's a new source with 3-stars, that source doesn't necessarily have to respect rotation.
Cool. Let's see, next up. For most characters, their ability list is in the same order. This is a very long question, and it's very hard to explain. But
if you want, I think I can summarize the question. I looked at this, and this has been thrown at us a couple times. It's this guy on the forums named Nance, and he basically all characters have 3 abilities, which have different colors, and we think of them in a certain order, 1, 2, 3, which is how they're listed next to their picture. And they also have color strengths, which is how strong they are at matching certain colors. And you can think of those in a similar order, 1, 2, 3, as strongest, second strongest, third strongest. and for the majority of our characters in the game, those two lists line up exactly, but there's a small chunk of characters where they don't. And with some characters, you have to worry about finding the other team's strongest color or something like that, and because of this mismatch, it can be confusing. So we looked at the fix to this. There's a bunch of fixes, and part of the root of the problem is that those two lists come from different places. The color strengths and the ability sequence come from two different spots in the code, or not in the code, but in the config. And so changing them is really complicated because we don't want to give people, if we change the order of which covers you have, then all of a sudden you have more covers in a different power than you did previously, and that would be weird. For what it's worth, one thing we totally could do, but is probably definitely the wrong answer, is we could change people's color strengths to match their abilities. I don't think that's the right answer, but it's worth noting we looked into it, and there is a right answer out there, and it's just going to require some time. I don't know if we have any time devoted to that, but it's an interesting problem.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the way it breaks down is that this is a thing that doesn't affect gameplay in any meaningful way, right? It's just
makes the UI like a little
funky.
A couple of abilities a little harder to work with.
Yeah, but and the amount of work needed to smooth out that funkiness
actually kind
is
of huge.
way big, and so unfortunately we just have to live with that funkiness for now.
Yeah, there are some things we like. There's like some wish list items that we have to make some of those abilities clearer, but probably in a different way than changing their ability orders around.
Yeah, we've had a lot of conversations about. I think strongest color is a really important mechanic for our game, but we could do better at communicating.
Yeah. Thank you for the question, Nance, even though we gave you a chance.
Yeah, beautifully formatted.
It's an awesome chart. Everybody should check it out.
Fantastic. Let's see. Next up, did you consider developing more non-competitive PvE events like the Gauntlet that could even be cooperative events? For example, when all players grind together to fill a progression bar.
Yeah. So we're first of all, always thinking about new kinds of ways for people to play the game. We always want to find new ways that are cooperative or competitive or just things to change it up a little bit. So we're always thinking about those. The thing this question reminded me of, though, is our old score targets. So if you've been a player in the game for a while, you'll remember events where it was like, oh, fill up the mayhem meters, the Dark Avengers, and the Avengers will arrive and you can fight them. And the way those worked is that those took everybody's score in the world and added them to a meter, and when the meter filled up, it did something. And the idea was that you were contributing to it. You were like, yeah, I'm doing this thing, and this meter's filling up, and it feels great. But that isn't really ever how it felt, unfortunately, because thankfully we have so many people playing our game. You were basically throwing pennies in a big bucket,
right?
And the bucket needed to reach
national debt, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're throwing, you're throwing pennies in this bucket, hoping it reaches $1 million, but you don't feel like you contributed to it. You feel like it just happened on itself. We talked in the office a few times about how it basically just feels like a timer is going up independent of you, and it's kind of a crummy experience. And the other downside of it is, you guys are really unpredictable. We have no idea how much or how little our players are going to play an event at any given time. And so we'd set a score target, be like, oh yeah, this will take them most of the event to fill up, and you guys would fill it in a day or two. Or we'd be like, all right, well they filled it in a day or two, so we're going to bump it way up, and then the event would be almost over and it wouldn't be anywhere close. So those are really hard to predict. So that's why we're leaning sort of away from those. You haven't seen them in a while. We've taken them out of things like the Sentry episode, but we're always looking for cool co-op stuff or cool non-competitive stuff, and you might see something in the next couple months.
Cool. Here's another one. I'd like to be able to scroll up through the leaderboard so I can see whether spending boosts or health back to get into the reward slot is worth doing.
Yeah, fair. That's a great suggestion. I can give you the technical reason why we don't do that. I think the best answer would be to add a feature to show you that information in some other way. But the reason why we don't let you just scroll through the leaderboards is that one of the most expensive things we can do in the game, meaning it like takes the most out of your battery life. It uses the most of your data plan, and it uses up our server time. Is when your game and the server talk to each other. So most of the time that your server and the game talk to each other, there are pretty strong time limits on that. Like it does that every match that you play, but you only play one match every 2 to 10 minutes, and it does that with so we do want you to talk to the server. It's interesting to see the top 10. Everybody needs to see that, so we just send that information to you when the client and the server are talking about an event. And it's also really important for you to see your rank in the event, and so the client and the server talk about that. But if there was a feature that let you just browse freely through the events, if there were just a couple of people that press that button 100 times in a row, or if there are 100 people that press that button 100 times in a row, that would both like drain those people's batteries and make those people send a lot of data back and forth, which they might be paying for. Which I don't know, that could be okay for them if they knew that's what was doing, but it might affect the server and have an impact on other players' experience. So that's why we don't let you browse the leaderboards.
Very technical.
But
important.
Yeah.
Cool. And this is actually the last question, sadly. This is fun.
Yeah, we were so stressed out about this. Here we are.
I actually really love this question. How closely do you work with Marvel? Do they decide which characters you release? And somebody noticed that we released Luke Cage the same day that Netflix announced the actor that would be playing him.
Yeah, I think it was the day before or day after. We work really closely with Marvel. It's been great. Sincerely, like I'm a lifelong Marvel nerd. Love comic books, and it's been like really incredible to watch the amount of trust they put in Demiurge and the amount of stuff they send us that we can't talk about with anybody. It's like very exciting. It's very exciting to like hear several months out that like Secret Wars is happening. Here's what it's about, and do you think you could plan something? I'm not saying we're doing anything, but like hearing about these events way ahead of time and having to have these internal conflicts of like, oh man, do I like read this doc and spoil these comics for me, or do I do my job? But it's great. We coordinated with them with Squirrel Girl and what else? Like Enemy of the State. We worked closely with them.
Everything. Like everything goes through them.
Oh yes.
Every piece of dialogue that goes in the game goes
through them. When we get feedback on like this doesn't really sound like Elektra, or rewrite this bit of dialogue, or like what are some?
They're protective of their characters and
rightly so.
And they never. The one thing I'm really happy about is I think they very rarely exercise that. So it feels like we're doing the characters justice, which I'm saying, but I actually firmly believe.
Yeah, totally.
The one thing that's weird though about it that I'm finding now is like now that we have more people posting stuff that they're data mining out of the binary, we constantly worry about including details for upcoming stuff in the PR because it can leak out through there. So just as a side note to the people posting stuff, you are actually hurting our ability to launch stuff alongside the comic books. So
it is a concern that like if we put in Star-Lord becomes the new Spider-Man in an event.
Not saying that's
happening. Yeah. And then someone digs that out, then it's a big deal. So it's a problem. But like we want to keep. This is gonna be a big year for Marvel.
Yeah.
And we've been talking with them a lot for like the past year to get ready for it. So expect more stuff to tie into comics and maybe not comics coming up this year. And I hope we keep working with them. It's been really great.
Yeah. I echo everything Casey just said in terms of like being a huge Marvel fanboy for my entire life. So it's been a dream come true working with them. So that's it. I think that was the last question.
All right,
man. I want to thank you guys for tuning in for the first and possibly last Q&A video. I don't know. We're trying this out. It's an experimental format. If you enjoyed the video version, let us know in the comments. Please. We'd love to hear it. We always love feedback in general. So, and I know you guys aren't shy about it. So.
Nope.
Keep it coming.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for playing.
Thank you.